Hi everyone, today let's talk about the FOMC. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So the FOMC held rates as expected, so no moves once again, but now they are indicating one cut this year. We've been talking about one, maybe two, and now they are openly saying we're going to get one cut this year. The question is when, still we're not sure exactly. The current forecast is either September or November. So nothing expected in July as we thought before, but they did mention the cutting cycle for 2025 could be more aggressive. They upped it from 3 to 4. And then they show the funds rate. It's been locked at 5.25 to 5.5. And then they show the cycle here. We've been paused all the way since July of 2023. Still waiting for that return to that 2% rate. Inflation outlook is between 2.6 and 2.8, excluding food and energy. So we're still not in that core region, but we are expected to get into that region. And they're indicating a return to 2%, but not until 2026. So we're still expecting a slow decline in inflation. And that's even with the lighter CPI data that we got this morning, which was very accommodative to markets. Markets rallied super aggressively on that data, expecting something from the Fed, and it ended up not being nearly as much as we wanted. You can see here, this is a nothing burger Fed meeting. We didn't get a ton of new information, no reason to rush to rate cuts, but at least we know now it's likely we're only going to get one cut this year. Moving over to fear and greed here, we finished at a 47, 46 was yesterday, and that is just a slight step higher. Once again, still grinding there, even with momentum heading back into extreme greed with the massive rally that we saw in markets today. Strength, still extreme fear. Breadth, still extreme fear. Options, extreme greed. So markets are absolutely mixed. We have the top stocks leading markets higher for sure, and then safe haven demand, it's in fear, and then junk bonds still in neutral. So bonds, not really sure, not participating in the move as much, and we'll definitely take a look at those yields later in the video. Moving over to seasonality, this is supposed to be a slightly bearish period, part of June, but obviously CPI and the FOMC are driving markets higher, mostly CPI, but something to watch here as we get into the 13th, maybe tomorrow. Maybe this is pushed a little bit to the right here where we see a bit of a dip in the mid-month, so just keep it in mind. We're not seeing a complete follow-through on this yet, but I think we might see a little bit of a follow-through later in the month. Moving over to the earnings calendar, I just wanted to highlight Broadcom. They did have an amazing earnings. They beat on the top and bottom line. They also announced a 10-for-1 stock split. So Broadcom having a massive move higher here today. Moving over to the economic calendar, you can see that CPI data coming in lower than expected across the board. Every single metric was better than expected, and that sent markets higher very early in the session. And then you can see interest rate projections slightly higher than expected for Q2, but 1 year and 2 year were all good. And then FOMC obviously held flat and then announced that one cut this year. Moving over to Max Payne, you can see it's now at 530, stock price all the way up at 542, almost just short of 542. Call wall apparently does not mean too much. Still could dip below that level for the Friday finish. Remember, this is the Friday close that we're talking about. Top of the puts, 537, 538. So again, this does show a potential for a little bit of bearishness before the end of the Friday session, but obviously price action is king and it does look super bullish right now. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps here on the hourly, you can see that huge candle that we got on the CPI data, jumped 0.76% on the open, rallied as well into that first candle of the day, fell into the FOMC, rallying a little bit after hours on that Broadcom earnings. And you can see here on the daily chart, we are back to that trend line. So critical trend line, hit it almost to the penny. Would have liked to see it go just about 50 cents higher or so and touch that level. High of day was 144.12, and then I have the trend line there at 144.34. So just about 20 cents higher. And then for tomorrow, that trend line resistance is going to be 545. Momentum bullish RSI back into overbought conditions. You can see obviously a clear divergence on momentum from this previous high to the current high. Again, price action is king, still looks very strong, but there is an upper resistance of trend line there. And you can see last time we hit this, we did pull back to that lower trend line. Let's go ahead and extend that out. If we were to hit that lower trend line, that would be down around 537, 538, which would be about a 1% down move from current price. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see we hit that upper ATR band just like we expected to. 544.36 was that upper ATR band, and high of day was 544.12, like I said, so just short of that upper ATR, right into that zone. Momentum still swinging to bullish, could absolutely grind along that level. You can see we hit it here just the same as we saw on that trend trend line, so couldn't grind there for a while, doesn't have to break down immediately. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, super interesting, hit that level, pulled back from there, and now we're right back to that upper ATR again, 542.40 on the 4-hour chart. Massive volume, still expect this to go higher off of that volume. It is interesting to see the selling candle on the highest volume peak of the day. Maybe the trade here on those big institutions was this candle back here on 30 May, buy in at this level, sell at this level, potentially on that volume. Then we could see what happens. Usually it takes a few days to close those positions, so could see some more sideways choppy action, but everything still looks bullish across the time frames. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis, rallied aggressive on CPI, hit the trend line, pulled back slightly, and now you can see that candle after hours, Broadcom pushing the NASDAQ higher about 0.5% after hours. Massive move again. It was already up 1.3% on the day, and now about another 0.5% higher after hours, so almost 2% on the day. Momentum and RSI super bullish as you would expect. You can see similar to the SPY hitting that upper trend line like we kind of expected. Got there faster than I would have guessed, but of course catalysts like this can be super important and drive markets right to those levels. That trend line for tomorrow would be 476.01. And we're already at 477 after hours. So we'll see how that plays out tomorrow. Could be even a breakout, maybe an acceleration from here. That would be pretty crazy, but everything looks super bullish, just like the SPY. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see that upper ATR band, 473.20, right at that level. Obviously, we're above it after hours, but momentum continues to swing to the bull side. We're grinding along that level at this point. We'll see what happens. Continues to accelerate to the upside. ATR stop is all the way up to 454.90. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, obviously we are way above that upper ATR. That is sitting at 473.04. We'll see how that continues to trend higher here, but we're way above that. Broadcom driving the NASDAQ much higher, and it has an increased effect on the NASDAQ versus the SPY. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see similar price action on the Russell. Big up candle on that CPI, even stronger than the other ones here, up 2.5% on that candle. Hit my level, 206.50, almost to the penny, and then pulled back from that level. We're back above the 200 SMA, which is good. Want to see that hold as support at 203.38. Did see momentum start to swing lower on that hourly chart. And then looking at it on the daily chart, again, you can see the big gap, slight pullback, momentum swinging to bullish, RSI breaking higher, decent volume there. Would like to see this start to change trend, but it still needs to hold some support in this 203 area. It is up a little bit after hours, so that's good. And then look at the Dow here on the daily chart. Finished negative, 0.07. It's right at the level. Can't seem to get away from this 387.77 level. Momentum basically flatlining. RSI right on top of the SMA. Hit the 21 like we thought that it was going to. That's at 391.24 and then pulled right back into the middle of this range. That's honestly a little bit concerning to me. I would have liked to see the Dow perform better, considering that the rest of markets did very well. But the Dow finishing negative on the day might show a little bit of follow through on that tomorrow, in my opinion. And then moving over to the Mag 7, obviously these price levels have moved since the Nvidia split, but this is what it looks like now. We've been grinding higher to that 251.02 level. Now I added a level here, 266.13, basically the wick high from the Monday session. Tuesday went higher. Wednesday higher again, almost hit that level, but bullish on the day, 1.53, momentum bullish, RSI, overbought conditions. So we'll see if we can get above that 266 level. I have a trend line up here around 284. See how that plays, but right now looks like we're accelerating to the bull side. Looking for a break above 266 on the Mag 7. Moving over to stocks that moved, we have Broadcom here and Oracle. We talked about Oracle a little bit yesterday, but you can see that gap and go that we got. So massive gap, and then continued to rally here today, finishing up almost 13.5%, and it's up a little bit more after hours. Clearly all-time highs, way above these levels. I put one here at the open of the candle, 134.74, just to give it some structure. But price discovery looks super bullish on Oracle. And then you got Broadcom up almost 12% after hours on the 12-hour chart here on its most recent earnings, headed towards that 1700 level, gapped from around 1500 up to almost 1700, so looks super powerful there as well, and that's what's driving the NASDAQ higher in my opinion. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, you can see Apple up another 2.86% off the back of that 7.26% move. Massive volume. We did get a little bit of selling here, closed right around the middle of the candle. High of day was 220.20, and now we're back down to 213. I wouldn't say that means anything. I might try to find some structure on this later for tomorrow's video, but right now it's price discovery. Nothing really to work with, in my opinion, to the upside. Just continues to go straight up. And then Microsoft gapped higher and rallied like we thought that it was going to. Still headed towards this trend line. Price target sitting at 452.64. We'll see if we can get there. Momentum and RSI both bullish. So everything across markets seems to be quite bullish. Moving over to Meta and Amazon, you can see Meta was positive 0.27. Didn't hit my 520 level like I would have guessed based on how everything else was moving today. It's actually selling off a little bit more after hours below the close from the previous day. That's a little concerning. I still think we're going to get to 520. Everything looks super bullish. And then you can see Amazon actually pulling back a little bit as well. Saw that candle yesterday, wasn't super bullish. Thought we'd still wick this high at 188.61, and we got very close. High of day was 188.35, so just missed it by about 30 cents. So very, very close. Momentum starting to fade a little bit there. I still think we might touch it one more time, but that's a bearish candle and engulfed the previous candle. That's a little concerning. Could see this pull back to the mid-range here around 183, but I think we'll touch that level before we break down. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, this is a perfect reason of why we watch these two charts together. You can see staples selling off 1.1%, momentum rolling to the bear side, RSI breaking down, closing on the low pretty much, headed towards that 55 EMA at 76.06, and then you got discretionaries moving higher, more than 1%, touched the 180.10 level. We've been watching that for a while. Want to see it get above that and push. Next level for me, 185.36. But you can see the clear dichotomy. People moving out of safety and back into growth, back into a risk on market. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, which means to me we should see a little bit more upside over the coming days. Moving over to transports and technology. Transports turned in a pretty good day, 1.29%. Gapped higher, threw a big wick, pulled back. We're back above 64.89. Transports looking a lot better today coming off of this most recent low. If this continues to rally, that should prop up markets. Interesting to see transports having such a good day with the Dow being negative on the day. But overall, I would like to see this rally a little bit more. And then technology, of course, rallied super aggressively. Hit the trend line like we thought it was going to at 225. It's above it here after hours on that Broadcom move. We'll see how this continues to play. 2.21%. Obviously, this is all-time highs here for technology, so who knows where we're going, but it's a very strong day, and it does look like it could go higher, even with that trend line as resistance in that 226 area. Moving over to oil and gold here, we got oil slightly positive, about 0.5%, getting back into this range here, starting to find a little bit of resistance. Thought we might touch that 200, came up a little bit short. That's at 79.68. High of day was 79.32. So again, about 30 cents short. We've seen that a couple of times here on my levels and where I thought we would be. Did touch the highly traded zone there. That was at 79.07. Pulled back from there. We'll see how this continues to play. And then we got gold. Slightly positive on the day as well, 0.27. Momentum starting to swing to bullish. 214.65 is my level. We closed almost on top of it to the penny, bouncing a little bit after hours. We'll see how that continues to play. But it's hanging in there. We had a colossal move. Thought that it might pull back a little bit more, but it hasn't. It's holding this zone. Might look for a push to that 225.09 level, which was the wick high from Monday the 20th. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, you can see RIOT was up 6.5%, massive move there. We talked about this holding a level in that 9.6 area, looked okay, threw some wicks, found some movement to the bull side, and now we're seeing that acceleration. I would say 200 SMA is the price target, 1166, could see another dollar move there. And then Marathon also moving higher, 2.42%, continues to hit this downtrend line. We touched it again here today. Let's go ahead and extend that out. But similarly, momentum swinging to bullish. RSI looks like it broke above just barely. Yep, slightly bullish there. Would like to see it hold this level and push to that next one up around $22. Could see a 10% move there on Marathon. Both of these look a little bit bullish, just like they did yesterday, and they continue to look that way. Moving over to Breadth, 20 and 50-day Breadth. You can see both of these were positive. Got back above 36.60. Might see this start to accelerate off of the catalyst here from today. That would be nice. And then similarly on the 50-day, through a big wick, almost hit 52 92.82. No real change in the structure, not like we saw here on the 20-day where we got above a level, started to push to the next one. Still in the same range that we've been in. Hit the 21, rejected from there. I would like to see this start to push and get above 52.81. That would be more bullish, but right now we're still holding in the range. Moving over to the dollar took a massive nosedive on the CPI data. Makes sense. When markets go higher, usually the dollar is going lower. And sure enough, that happened again. And then we had the FOMC and the dollar caught a bit of a bounce. It's back above my 104.4 level. And my trend line here, 21 EMA, 9 EMA, catching a little bit of a bounce. Doesn't look nearly as strong as it did while it was approaching that 105.50 level, but this could be a higher low, or it could break through here and push back to that 144 EMA. So watching this one pretty closely. Would like to see this continue to fall so we can see markets continue to go a little bit higher, but it still caught a little bit of support in this same zone, kind of where you would have expected it to if it was going to reject from here like it did. Moving over to the 2-year and the 10-year yield, as you would expect, both of these continue to go lower as they did yesterday, down 1.74 and 2% respectively. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, back to the 200 here on the 2-year. 10-year wicked that 144. At 4.26%. Now that we have that one cut priced in, I would actually expect this to kind of rally a little bit, but I guess it's factoring the potential for 4 cuts next year, which would bring us down to that low 4% range. So it's hovering between current price, which is that 5.5, and that potential to be around 4.25 by the end of next year. So makes sense, right in the same zone, and that's where we've been hovering on the 2-year. And then looking at the 10-year, still in that 4.3 area. At this point, I don't think we're going to see an uninversion, at least until we see that first cut from the FOMC, which means we could stay inverted potentially till November, if not for the rest of the year at this point. Moving over to bonds, as you would expect, these went much higher. J&K hitting my level at 94.82, almost to the penny, and then rejected from there. We're still at the top of the range. We're still in the middle of this range here. Momentum and RSI are bullish. Want to see this push to this next intermediate level at 95.39. See how that continues to play, but that's a big move, expected bullishness, and that's what we got. And then looking at TLT, similarly, big bullish day yesterday, 1%, and then another one here today at 0.75. Hit the 144 EMA there at 93.17 and my level at 92.82. Rejected from there a little bit, which is concerning, but I do think that this structure is going to continue to hold. You can kind of see it in here, low, higher low, higher low. Might see this start to accelerate to the upside, especially with momentum and RSI looking more bullish here today. Moving over to volatility, MOVE index falling as you would expect, VIX falling again as well. Headed towards that 1177 area, momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. I was neutral on this yesterday, got a slight step higher and then a big pullback as you would expect based on the S&P move. We'll see if we touch that 1177 area again, see what happens when we get there, but everything looks super bullish and I would expect this to go lower at least a little bit. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I was positioned quite well for the price action that we got today, up over $1,200, closer to $13, and you can see we were up even more after hours on the Qs, so this should be up a little bit more by market open tomorrow. I had a put here at 472. You can see it was down $46 at the close for 71 cents credit, but that's going to be positive at market open, and I would expect that to close out of the money tomorrow. So that'll be another $140 tomorrow. And then I rolled out this covered call to 469 for $6.30 credit. That's in a small profit, so that's good as well. And then IWM, I had a put on, took the profit on that put, almost all of it. Left about 12 cents on the table out of around $250 on that, so that was good. You can see $364 profit on that IRA position. And then I left the covered call on here, 100 shares and a 202 call for almost $3 credit, so max profit there is going to be $305-ish for the Monday session, and that still gives me $3 protection down to that 202 level. And you can see after hours, it's down just a little bit. I'm not too worried about it. IWM typically is weaker in this area, with tech driving markets higher, but overall it still should be good now that we're back above that 200 SMA, so slightly bullish across the board going into tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of the CPI data and the FOMC comments today. Will they continue to drive markets higher? Will we actually get that one cut, or will it be no cuts this year? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.